You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. Follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/The Mark Cox Show.
I think the House leadership bit off more than they could chew. They wanted this huge bill to pass that had a lot of things that were objectionable to conservatives. What if we start with a more modest bill, start with a bill that has very little in it except for what everyone agrees, every Republican agrees, and then build from there? And I think that approach actually would work better.
So yesterday, Chris Arps,
yes.
I pretty much came out and said that this is an issue that has me torn a little bit, because often on a lot of these issues, I'm where the Freedom Caucus is. I was a big supporter of Ted Cruz when he was filibustering in the Senate to try to do what people sent him there to do, which was defund Planned Parenthood and stop Obamacare and some of these other things. But on this issue, just like I made in my comments the other night to the Reagan-Lincoln Day dinner, I almost think we're on the verge of blowing a great opportunity here. If they can't come to an agreement and they lose the House or the Senate in 2018, this opportunity's gone forever.
But I take it a little bit back further. I take it a little bit further back than that. This whole bill was managed just very badly. I mean,
agreed.
It seemed like the Ryan and his folks came up with a bill and said, this is what we're going to pass because I know you guys made promises to your constituents, so you're going to pass it anyway. And they were trying to pass this in 18 days, and I just don't think they brought together enough people to talk about it and got a coalition to pass this. To just throw it on people and say, here, vote for it, I mean, kind of doomed it to the start. And also, too, Mark, I think, what we've seen here is what a lot of us who were supposed to be critical of Donald Trump during the primary, or what we were saying is, being a businessman and owning a company with no shareholders, when you tell people to jump, they do it, is going to be different than being president of the United States, because you've got 535 people in the other branch of government who think they could be president along with you. And it's not going to be this, the Congress is the board of directors and you're the president and they're going to do what you say they're going to do. And I think we've seen that played out with this healthcare vote, where just because you're president and this is your party, people aren't going to just jump in line because you tell them to.
I heard Jamie Allman this morning. His theory on this is that it's ripping a page right out of the art of the deal. Trump's willing to walk away. He's smarter than the rest of them, and he figures by doing that, they're going to figure out a way to fix this. Well, they'll come back to the table, and maybe according to Ann Wagner, we're already seeing that a little bit.
It's apparently worked because, what we were told last week, this is dead. We're moving on to tax reform, and then this morning I read that there's renegotiations between the White House and Congress, to try to do a bill. So,
what are your thoughts on this surveillance issue at the White House and it's a non-controversy about Devin Nunes as far as I'm concerned, with them asking him to step down. But it's almost like, the left is really afraid of what he may be about to pop on them here, because if it's true, there are probably going to be some members of the previous administration facing charges potentially at some point.
And this may not be a popular position with you and with some of the listeners, and I don't know if it's gotten to the point where I think Nunes should step down, but it's highly wrong, or I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Unusual?
Unusual that he gets information and instead of sharing it with the committee, you immediately go over to the White House and share it with the president. That kind of makes it look like, hey, I may have some damaging information. I want to share it with you first so you guys know what to do with it.
But I don't know that it was. I don't get the impression that it was damaging.
But we don't. But we don't know. We don't. The information hasn't been released.
Yeah, but what he said to them was, I've seen indications that unrelated to anything to do with Russia, there was NSA surveillance of the transition team members that continued, including their names being unmasked improperly during the transition, which allowed people to use this NSA surveillance to basically monitor conversations and interactions between these transition members. That's what he said he saw. And then, I don't know if you heard the bite earlier from Trey Gowdy. Did you hear that Gowdy bite yesterday?
No.
He said it didn't matter whether he found the information in the White House or the Waffle House. If the info is reliable, what difference does it make?
But the thing is, I think what the Democrats can legitimately ask is, how do we know that's all the information? And it's, like I said, it's highly unusual that you don't share the information with your committee first. You immediately go over to the White House. So that kind of gives the impression that you're trying to give the White House a heads up on something. Maybe that's untrue, but it just gives that impression, and I think it's legitimate. Now, should he step down? I don't think it's to that point yet, but I think the Democrats have, legitimacy to question that.
Here's the only reason that I disagree with you on that. The mainstream media has gone to extreme lengths to call the president's accusations in his tweet groundless, baseless, fabricated. These are words I've heard them use in press reports. If what Nunes found is true, then what's fabricated is the news coverage of this event. And he knew that the president was being vilified over this, and he found information that backed up the president's claims. I don't see why he wouldn't have gone and given that, because the president clearly has the security clearance to look at it. Nunes has the security clearance to look at it. The only thing I don't understand out of all this is this happened, last Friday?
Yeah.
And it's now Tuesday, and the members of the Intelligence Committee still don't have it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why this wouldn't have been released sooner than this. That's the only thing that's outstanding in my mind.
Well, here's something else that could possibly stand out. And the Democrats, the ranking member Schiff from California, did a press conference Friday on this, is there was supposed to be a open hearing Monday. And then that was automatically just canceled the day after Nunes does his trip to the White House. So I'm not saying, I'm on.
Then there's supposed to be a closed hearing today, and that also got canceled by the Intelligence Committee. And I don't know if it was the Democrats or the Republicans that canceled it. But from what I heard yesterday, Fox News reporting, we had one of the reporters on the show. Comey wasn't going to be there. The NSA director wasn't going to be there. So I'm not quite sure what they were going to be discussing, but clearly there's some infighting going on there, right?
There's a lot of smoke.
And like one guy called in earlier and said that this Schiff guy is positioning himself to run for Dianne Feinstein's seat in California.
Oh, I don't particularly care for him. He is very, very partisan. Those types that is going to find something wrong with everything, and I guess that's his job, is kind of a pit.
Sure,
so
that's his job in that role as the minority member of that committee. I would agree with that.
But I think it is. I think, like I said, I don't know if he should step down yet. But Mark, we've talked about this. You've got a birthday coming up. You're older than me. We've watched politics a long time. You and both of us. We follow this. Have you ever heard of a guy getting information and going, instead of giving it to his committee, going straight to the White House first? Have you ever heard of anything like that? That's highly unusual.
I'd have to think about it. I don't know if it's unusual or not.
It is.
But why do you think that?
Because you've got the ranking member saying that has just as much clearance as Donald Trump and as much clearance as Nunes. Why doesn't he get the information?
Like I said, I'm surprised that the information hasn't been shared yet. I agreed with you on that one. But I don't know if him giving the president a heads up is all that controversial.
But it looks well. But you don't know we don't know if all the information has been discharged.
That's true.
Sorry.
That's all right. Chris Arps, always good to see you.
Very engaging today.
Thank you for being here, my friend.
I feel intellectually stimulated. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. Somebody's got to feel that way. That's a good thing. In the next hour, we'll talk about these climate change executive orders that came out today reversing what the Obama administration tried to do. It's all coming up on The Mark Cox Show.
This hour of The Mark Cox Show brought to you by Naputi Wellness, NaputiWellnessCenter.com.
Great time to go to Espino's Mexican restaurant. Why, you ask? Because it's warming up. It'll be warm enough to sit outside and enjoy a drink. They've already got the tables out there. Why wouldn't you go there and enjoy it? It's Tuesday, so it's Twisted Tuesday, and that's cool. Bear in mind that next Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, they have Tots Taco Tuesday, where the kids can make their own tacos. How many times have I gone to a Mexican restaurant and my kid would not eat what was delivered to them because it had too much stuff in it? So if that's your kid, next Tuesday is the time to go to Espino's Mexican Bar Grill, right in the Chesterfield Valley. You can see it right there from Highway 40. It's right on Chesterfield Airport Road down there by the theater. Easy to get to. Great variety of food. Great cantina. Go check